Mr. Chairman, thank you for joining us today to talk about the next FA Cup game. The game is going to be against Torquay United, who 17 years ago we were playing. They were in what we know as League 2 now, and Boreham were in the Ryman Premier. The game ended 5-0 to Torquay. What can you remember about that day?
Cool, blimey. I was 40 years of age. My manager was Mickey Engwell. My skipper was Gary Watton. My club captain was Lee Harvey. We had a great keeper in Noel Limber. And it was the first time as a chairman I'd got to the first round proper of the FA Cup, so it was one of huge excitement. And it was a great occasion, in all fairness. I mean, we took 300 or 400 supporters with us, and when we were at the levels that we weren't sure if we'd ever, if we'd ever get back there again. So we made sure we took the cleaners with us, we took the burger girls, we took all the staff, we took the players' wives and the players' parents, and we made a whole weekend of it. And although we got stuffed 5-0, I think. I remember Scott Honeyball getting sent off. And although we lost 5-0, it was a great occasion for us as a club, who back then were kicking around in the lower reaches of non-league football. So yeah, all good thoughts.
You have the shirt from the game next to you, the Boreham shirt.
Yeah.
And other memories there as well.
Yeah, in fact, looking at the sponsors, T-Mobile, that was about the closest we ever come, I think, to replicating Bayern Munich. I think they were sponsors of them at the time. I don't know if they still are. And now looking at these, you look at Charlie now, who's my son. He's now the chief executive. You look at my skipper Gary Watton and the shirts. They're fantastic memories. A lot of the people, a lot of the players back then, non-league football was very different. And a lot of those players who were there are still lifelong friends. So, I'm not sure how much they'd fit in with today's Twitter world and social media world, but they were great guys to be the chairman over. And as I say, Mickey Engwell, who was the manager then, he's still a great friend of mine. Great memories.
You mentioned your father, who was in the picture frame behind you. How has the club changed since he was in charge?
God blimey. Dad was in charge here in the 60s and 70s, so in truth, floodlights would be one of the major changes. Back then they used to kick off at 2 o'clock. But it was he brought a lot of success to the club. I believe he gave it a spirit when he was here, the underdog spirit that I think it still has. And I think he'd be very proud, to think we're going to Torquay. We were playing, teams like Erith and Belvedere and just some real lower level clubs who, great clubs, but again it was in the old Athenian League and Spartan Leagues and all that back then. And again, a lot of the team and were made up of local lads. Everybody knew each other. Our town centre was called the Village, and a lot of people, met here on a Saturday afternoon, and their social side was in the clubhouse. So it's changed enormously. I think he'd be very proud of his club now. I think he'd be very proud of his grandchildren for the work they've done. I think he'd have enjoyed me being chairman here for 21 years. I don't think he'd have enjoyed me playing here. He'd have probably told me I'm the worst player that's ever played here, I would think. But everything we do here, there's always a slight thought back to his memory, when we beat Sutton in the playoff semi to go to Wembley, he was in my thoughts. When we got to Wembley, I remember walking down Wembley Way that day and looking at the supporters and seeing the town's name, up on that big, billboard at Wembley, and thinking, what would he make of this? And I'd walk down Wembley Way with him. in 68, 69 for the England game. My first England game was England-Bulgaria. So yeah, lots of memories. And again, I think, as I say, I think when if he saw Torquay United in the FA Cup, then we play Notts County and the Chesterfields and everyone else in the league. I mean, probably back then Averley was probably his big rivals. So yeah, he'd certainly be enjoying this.
So fast forward 17 years, and the same situation has come up again. Torquay United in the FA Cup. This time round, there isn't quite as much of a gap. You're sat 2 places behind them in the league, in the National Panorama League. How do you see the game going this time? Do you think it'll be much more even?
Yeah, I think you know the answer to that question before you ask it. We're a good side, but we know we've already been down there. First game of the season, and they beat us 2-1. We were down to 10 men for 60 minutes. But I would think when we come out of the hat, they weren't too happy with the draw. And I know when we pulled them, we weren't happy with the draw, So I think it'll be tight. But again, it's a great opportunity for both clubs to progress. They're slight favourites, I suppose, because they've got home advantage. The league positions will tell you there's not much between us. They've got a fantastic manager in Gary Johnson. Their support base, is fantastic, and the first game of the season down there, I mean, the supporters had the place rocking. So I'm expecting a hostile atmosphere, and may the best team win, I suppose.
As the chairman and obviously a fan, what would a progression into the next round and a cup run mean for Boreham?
Not masses. I'm not a chairman who budgets for a hopeful cup run. If we get stuffed, we get stuffed. If we're unlucky, we're unlucky. If we get a bit of fortune or we nick a result, it's all part and parcel of what you expect. I mean, 21 seasons here tells me if you're budgeting for a cup run, then you're foolish. And so no, I mean it won't actually. I mean, I suppose if you do the Lincolns and the Suttons of a few years ago, and you can progress to the FA Cup quarter-finals or the last 16s, and then of course it's going to make a huge difference. But let's be honest, they're one-offs. I think it was the first time in 100 years or whatever it was that type of thing had happened. So in the normal course of events, most teams at our level, it's 4th round, 1st round, some going to the 2nd round, and that's really where it ends. I mean, the bigger competition for me is always the FA Trophy, because it does give you a chance at our level. If you can get a run in that, then you're dreaming of taking your supporters in your town up Wembley Way again, and that's what I want. I want memories, so no, it won't be a dramatic change for us. We've got a good squad. That's not going to change. We've got a little bit ready in the budget for January if we need it. And as always, we try and take small steps and run ourselves, with an eye on the future, not just for today.
And finally, you mentioned about 400 fans travelled 17 years ago. You have an offer for the first 30 fans that booked to travel with the Away Fans Travel Club. How important is it that the Wood Army travel to support the boys?
It's important the Wood Army travel to all our away games, but football has always been tribal, hasn't it? Players want to react to support, supporters want to react to their players, the identity of where you come from. We're South Hertfordshire, North London, travelling down to Devon. We're going to go down there. We may only have a pocket of us. There may only be 50 or 60 there, but it's also important, I think, for owners and for chairmen to appreciate their supporters. They're finishing an hard week of work. They're travelling 4 or 5 hours to get there, and they're spending their hard-earned money. And if occasionally we can do things to help them out, You know, I mean, giving them a ticket and free entry to the game, you know, it might help them to take their Litland down. You know, it might put it might just give them a couple of bob to have a couple of pints, or an half-time cup of tea and a pint, or whatever. And sometimes when you see the sort of money that's spent in the Premier League and how the big Premier League clubs conduct themselves, I mean, they forget this is grassroots. This is where them players, a lot of them have come from. You know, as you know, Vardy came out of non-league. You know, you've got plenty of players. You know, you've got our own Pelly Ruddock, you know, performing well at at Luton. We've got Carl Vassell doing, he's at Rotherham. We've got Lee Hodson, who's at Glasgow Rangers, and he's down at Gillingham. So we've got players all over, but the most important thing, especially FA Cup games, I think, is, you know, two sets of fans make an atmosphere, and so that, I think it is important that we look after them where we can. But I'm sure there won't be 300 or 400 of them this time. They've got used to the FA Cup first rounds now. We beat Blackpool in not too long ago. We took Notts County before they got relegated into our division to a replay, maybe 3 years ago. So yeah, we're an established club at this stage of the competition now, and so that real gut excitement that maybe the Ryman Premier and the Ryman North clubs feel if they've got to this stage, one away from a shot at the pro clubs, maybe is missing a little bit. But it's still the FA Cup, and it's still the greatest competition that you can enter, and so we'll enjoy it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.